In this webinar video, we're going to look at the tools and resources in Purple Mash that will support the teaching and learning of the computer science aspects of the computing curriculum. The two tools that you can use with your children to teach the computer science aspects of the computing curriculum for Key Stage 1 are 2Code and 2Go. But before we look at those two tools in more detail, let's first of all have a look at the objectives from the Key Stage 1 computing curriculum. Here in our computing scheme of work, there are a number of different progression of skills documents, which include the national curriculum statements and outcomes for each year level. These outcomes clearly show what children will achieve when working through the computing units in our scheme of work, and it gives teachers the opportunity to identify the progress pupils are making against core skills. The computer science aspects of the Key Stage 1 curriculum focus on the skills used in programming, such as algorithms, creating and debugging simple programs, and using logical reasoning. Let's look back now in our computing scheme of work at the Year 1 and Year 2 units that will support the teaching and learning of the computer science aspects of the computing curriculum. So in Year 1, if I go into there, the two units that I'm going to be focusing on today are this one here, Unit 1.5, Maze Explorers, which uses the tool 2Go, and then this unit here, 1.7, which is the coding unit. I'm also going to be looking at this unit here, Unit 2.1, which is the coding unit for Year 2. As you will see, when I go into the coding unit here for Year 2, the lesson plans are at the top along with some knowledge organisers, which include key learning, resources, vocabulary, key questions, and some key images that you'll use when teaching this coding unit. Now, when deciding which of these two units to use with your children, if the children in your Year 2 class had completed the Year 1 coding unit, Unit 1.7, when they were in Year 1, then this is the coding unit to choose. There are 5 lesson plans. The first lesson in this unit picks up where the children left off, having completed Unit 1.7 in Year 1. And it begins by reviewing the vocabulary and the learning that the children have done in their previous year level. If your Year 2 children have not completed the coding unit in Year 1, then the coding crash course for Year 2 is the one to choose for your pupils. There are 6 lessons in this unit. The very first lesson begins by explaining what coding is and gives the children a chance to explore the tool 2Code for the very first time. There are step-by-step instructions for all teachers with all ability levels and all levels of confidence to be able to read through the lesson plans, use the resources that are hyperlinked within the lesson plans themselves, following the step-by-step instructions in order to teach coding to your pupils. Alongside the coding units and knowledge organisers, you have all of the resources that you will need. These are referred to as hyperlinks within the lesson plans themselves. There are examples that you can use and set as to-dos for your children to complete independently. There are video guides, which will explain some of the key coding understandings that are taught within the lesson plans, as well as some printable storyboards so that children can plan their own code examples. Let's now have a look in the tools area at the two tools that we're going to focus on today. To start with, let's explore the tool 2Go, which gives children the opportunity to control an object on the screen using a range of instructions, built-in backgrounds, and challenges. It can be used as an introduction to programming and is aimed at children between the ages of 6 and 8. Many teachers use 2Go as a follow-on from using the floor robot. You can either select one of the pre-made built-in backgrounds, or you can make your own. You can draw your own picture, use one of the clip art options, or using the choose file button at the bottom here, you can select a file from your own PC that you saved away that you can use as your own background. There are also a set of challenges that start off very simply and increase in complexity as you move through the challenges. These challenges can be differentiated and set as to-dos for your pupils. Let's start with challenge number 1.
Guide the fish to the treasure chest.
This challenge uses the very simplest of instructions, up, down, left, and right. And as you click on one of these instructions, the fish moves one step at a time to determine his path. Now I can select Try Another, which will take me to challenge number 2, which increases in complexity. This time I have to
drive the car to the bank and then to the hospital.
You will notice this time my input has changed, where now I have to select how many left, right, or up and down that the car is going to drive. So let's go 1 step left. It's going to go down 7 steps. In order to change the complexity of the input that your children are using, you can use the silver settings cog here, Now that was the very simplest one that was on challenge number 1. That is the instructions used in challenge number 2. You can increase the complexity to introduce diagonals, which will get to your destination more efficiently. Or you can use this option here, which is more like the B-bots or the roamers. If I select 90 degrees there, this is now a forward arrow, back arrow, anti-clockwise and clockwise turn. And again, I have the numbers at the bottom telling the turtle how many of those steps to take. So let's now use that set of instructions and see if I can drive my car to the hospital. So I have used my simple instructions to complete this challenge. However, I now want to try the challenge again using the settings cog to click on the General tab and turn the programming elements on. So as we have seen, To-Go is a fantastic starting point that begins the teaching and learning of the programming aspects of the Key Stage 1 computing curriculum. If I look back now at the progression of skills document, I can clearly see that for Year 1 children, To-Go will enable them to understand what an algorithm is and how it is used to achieve a purpose by following a simple set of instructions. It also enables children to have a look at a program, be able to read one line at a time in my algorithm to see what the overall effect will be of that program. And lastly, it enables children to work out what's wrong with the code. By being able to read through a simple set of instructions and work out which of those instructions is not correct, they can begin the very simple understanding of debugging. If you are a Year 1 teacher, then in the computing scheme of work in the teachers area, if I go into Year 1 here, I can then go into this unit here, Unit 1.5, Maze Explorers. This unit uses the tool To-Go to begin to teach the programming aspects of the Key Stage 1 curriculum. There are very clear step-by-step instructions and activities and challenges within the lesson plans themselves. And also there are pre-made resources that you can use within each of the lessons and a knowledge organizer that gives you an outline of the key learning resources, vocabulary, images and some key questions. The next tool you can use with your children to teach the computer science aspects of the computing curriculum is this one here, ToCode. ToCode uses block coding to build up programs. This means blocks of code are dragged by the user into the coding window and they fit together to build up the program. When a block of code is placed in the coding window, ToCode then offers the user a choice of appropriate functions to complete the line of code. There are 3 levels within ToCode. There's Chimp level, which is designed for year 1s and 2s, Gibbon level for 3s and 4s, and down here, Gorilla are for year 5s and 6s. And at the bottom underneath the guided lessons, you have debugging challenges, again for Chimp level, Gibbon level, and Gorilla. And then free code activities. Free code scenes and free code Chimp are at the lowest level, and then Gibbon and Gorilla. If we go back to the Chimp level, there are 19 guided lessons in Chimp, and these were designed to be used with your year 1 and 2 children. The guided lessons start with the very simplest one, Fun with Fish, and they build up in complexity and teach the children a new coding understanding throughout each of these lessons. Let's have a look at the first lesson, Fun with Fish. As with all of the guided lessons, there are a number of steps in this particular challenge to complete. The first 2 steps in this challenge, the children have to block code exactly according to the instructions in order to move to the next challenge. The third challenge in this activity is the debugging challenge. Something's broken, can you debug the code and see if you can make the code work? The last step in this and many of the guided lessons is a little bit more open-ended, where the children can apply what they've learnt in this lesson to create their own scene. If I click on step number 1, I can watch the guide video with my class. I can watch it in the full screen. The beauty of the videos is that not only are you introduced to the actual challenge and what you're meant to do in this activity, but it uses the correct vocabulary. So I would thoroughly advocate using the videos as a whole class, watching them with your children before you begin the challenge. There is an additional hint at the bottom. Unlocking the hint will give you either an additional video or a screenshot of what the code window needs to look like to give you a little bit more information about what you're doing. Now, if you're in the middle of a challenge and you're still not quite sure what to do, you can go back to the guide videos by clicking on this blue question mark at the top there, and you can re-watch the videos or unlock the hint if you haven't already. Now I'm back here on the 2Code homepage. In here you have some 2Code video tutorials which will support teachers in understanding many of the coding principles taught through 2Code. There are further supporting documents here in the Coding Resources and Solutions area. If I go here into the Guided Lessons and Solutions area, you will find the solutions to all of the guided lessons in Chimp. And if I scroll down, you'll see the 19 guided lessons there in Chimp, and underneath each lesson is broken down with an overview of the lesson at the top and a screenshot of each of the steps within that activity. So in order for the children to move from step 1 to step 2, this is a screenshot of what the children's code window needs to look like. Underneath the solutions are some assessment documents and activities. There are 2 activities for Chimp level, Activity 1 and Activity 2. These can be used and set as to-dos for your class to see how well your children have understood what you've taught. When your children have completed this activity, you'll be able to see the scores and the work that they've completed by clicking on these buttons here. So let's first of all have a look at the scores and see how well my children have done. Now I can see it's taken me to the data dashboard area at the top here, and I can see Chimp Activity 1 Purple Disco. I can see that Daisy Chapman has completed that. She got 5 code stars. I can break down to the date and time that she completed it. So the fact that she achieved 5 code stars indicates to me that she knew what to do in every single step of the way without unlocking any of the hints. Now, if I want to see her final step in this activity, which was an open-ended create your own scene, I will click on the View Folder button here, which has now taken me to the Work area down to Year 2, and I can see this is the Chimp activity that I've set for Daisy. In order to mark the work now, I can now click on this ellipsis underneath the file name. I'm going to use the Mark feature here, which will enable me to preview Daisy's work on the left-hand screen, press the play button, and see what she's done in the open-ended part of this challenge. I can read her code, and I can add some comments on the right-hand side here. I can add some smiley faces, some written comments, or I can record a verbal comment using my microphone and my device. I can also add rewards to her piece of work by clicking this option up the top here and giving her an inspiration award, for example, for computing. Daisy will then see that reward up here. The other option when I'm marking a child's piece of work is to add teacher judgments against the work. I need to first of all assign objectives to this. Let's go to the Year 2 curriculum, and I can then assign teacher judgments against each of those objectives. Now again, if I go back to the data dashboard, I'll be able to see my teacher judgments down here underneath the scores area. Here in the Year 2 computer science area, I can see that Daisy Chapman is exceeding on creating and debugging challenges and is expected on understanding what algorithms are. So in this video, we have focused on 2Go and 2Code, as well as the computing scheme of work for Year 1 and Year 2, focusing on the 3 units of coding and using 2Go as maze explorers. These units, along with the progression of skills documents and the assessment tasks and the solutions, will support you in the teaching and learning of the computer science aspects of the Key Stage 1 curriculum.